I'm Anthony Arroyo. I'm the product manager here at WSI that handles Sophos. And for today, we're going to discuss something of how can I say it? Something of not the usual webinars that we have. We're going to discuss actually opportunities in the sense of if ever a Symantec existing one switching to Sophos. What would be the advantages and what are the usual situations wherein you could find over our clients or our organizations here locally that would consider Sophos in moving into Sophos actually. And actually, this would be somewhat of a quick one, quick webinar, because primarily we're on Friday, and I believe, thank you for your time. And we're just going to have somewhat of a quick one compared to our previous webinars. So these ones are very good FYIs, and I do hope you'll appreciate it after the webinar itself. Okay, some house rules. All attendees are placed on mute. All questions will be answered during the Q&A portion. So please feel free to write your questions over the chat box. The webinar is actually being recorded now. And please, we encourage everyone to answer the feedback form. So our quizzes will actually be linked over the feedback form. The link of the quizzes post activity will be there. We encourage everyone to answer the feedback form first, then so that we could proceed over the quizzes because the feedback form actually helps us a lot. And we thank you if you answer the feedback form. Okay? So good afternoon again, everyone. I'll start first with a quick introduction of who WSI is. So Vertex Systems Incorporated. We are IT distributors here in the Philippines that carries a lot or a majority of IT solutions towards our partners, such as yourselves. So from telecommunications, backup, design, printing and imaging, infrastructure, and of course, cybersecurity solutions, specifically Sophos. We've been in the industry for about 39 years already, and we're actually going to celebrate our 40th year next year. So our branch, our main branch is actually at Makati, at the Metropolitan Ave, to be specific. And we also have two branches at Cebu branch and Davao branch that handles Vismin requirements. You could also check us over our official website, which is www.vortex.com.ph, so that you would also feel free to look at our other portfolios as well, especially if you have other IT requirements as well. And lastly, you could see us over social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. Please feel free to look at us and please drop a like or a share on that. Thank you so much. And also, we have our e-commerce site, www.wesellit.ph. Please feel free to look at that site as well, so that if you ever have some personal requirements, we also cater over our e-commerce site as well. As mentioned, I will be your host for today. I hope everyone is having a good day. And thank you again for attending our webinar. And let's proceed. I'm Anthony Arroyo, by the way. So for today, we're going to discuss switching from Symantec to Sophos and an introduction to Sophos Intercept X so that we would all be aware, like a mini refresher on what Intercept X as our endpoint security solution is capable of. So the agenda would be just a quick snapshot of the landscape currently being seen, especially on the perspective of third-party accreditors, some specific challenges that is currently being experienced in comparison to our friendly vendor, which is Symantec. Then we're going to have the overviews of Intercept X, some tech updates, if ever, for the benefit of everyone here on the call. Then a quick expectation on what does it look like in relation to deployment. And then some promo, or at least our promo that is currently being running. And you would feel free to communicate with our accounts executives if you would want to explore further our promos. Okay, let's proceed. I'll just do last check on our technical. Okay, I think everything is in order already. Let's proceed. Okay, so this is a snapshot that is currently being seen over the most recent report of Gartner regarding endpoint security. And as what they are predicting, actually, the link is below, actually. They are predicting that, by the end of 2023, cloud-delivered endpoint protection solutions will exceed 95% of deployments already. This was being fast-forwarded or fast-tracked or has further been augmented by all the digital transformation, the remote work requirements, and the migration of our organizations from on-prem to cloud. And they are predicting that by the end of 2023, so 2 years from now, 95% of deployments for endpoint security is towards the cloud already. Another prediction is that by 2025, 50% of organizations using endpoint detection and response, or let's say even extended detection and response, will use managed detection and response capabilities as well. So the MPR component on our perspective, on Sophos' perspective, primarily because of all the challenges that organization might need, especially in managing their threat hunting, their security processes and their security infrastructure as well to further have a better security posture. The Gartner is predicting that by 2025, a lot or at least half of organizations globally will look into managed detection and response already or services already. And the last prediction is that by 2025, 60% of detection and response solutions will include data sets from multiple security sources or multiple data sets. And the prediction there is that an endpoint solution should not just be just the endpoint solution that we all know, which is the antivirus. It should also have other feature sets as well, such as CASB and DLP. So this is the prediction that Gartner is currently being seen and is publicly documented that you could see and you could find out over the web. So some challenges that currently being experienced when we are discussing towards our friendly vendor, which is Symantec. This is from Gartner as well. And these are the current challenges that they are currently being reported to. So the first one is the acquisition of Broadcom from Symantec had a very rocky start with confusion in the channel and poor communication with customers. So Broadcom's focus on selling a broad portfolio of products and services to large enterprise accounts may not align with the current and prospective SMB organizations that we have here locally, especially those that favor a direct support relationship with their vendor. So this one was a big challenge actually when this was triggered by Broadcom when they acquired Symantec. And I believe some of us here in the call already experienced this firsthand in relation to communicating with the channels and even the post sales actually. This was one of the major factors that were involved on the organizations, on the end user's perspective when they migrated towards other solution sets of endpoints as well. The next one was in 2020, Symantec actually stopped offering direct managed detection and response and other managed services to enterprise customers, lowering the score of managed service from the Gartner criteria as well. And another one is that their detection and response strategy still lacks the pre-built granular incident response and automation capabilities, comparing it to the other vendors and especially towards us. And they are relying primarily on API-based integrations with third-party, let's say SIM and SOAR, to provide the cybersecurity posture that the organizations are expecting that they would be able to provide. So primarily, they are relying on, as I've mentioned, other third-party solutions to better augment the cybersecurity posture that the organization or the end user is currently requiring. And last one is that Symantec endpoint security is increasingly designed for large enterprise organizations. So they are currently focusing on the large enterprise, which is primarily has the SOC teams, and its range of controls and policies may be too excessive for those that are not large enterprises. And these ones are some of the good profiles that we could look into in when we are discussing about our Sophos cybersecurity as well. Okay, now because of that, I would just want to share with you the previous Magic Quadrant from Gartner and the most recent one, which is the May 2021. So from the previous one, we are at the leaders quadrant. This was last 2019, and Symantec was actually higher when I believe this was before the Broadcom acquisition, and their SEP, which is a Symantec Endpoint Protection, was basically one of the top notch then. No, at that certain time period, that's why they were higher in the leaders quadrant in relation to Gartner's Magic Quadrant. But now, the most recent one in May 2021, actually, they're now at the visionary squadron primarily because of the loss of focus, especially on the endpoint when we are discussing endpoint. And for us, for Sophos, we are still at the leader squadron, actually, for the past 12 years consecutively. And this is our main, our primary value proposition towards organizations, especially when they are very much sensitive over the Gartner's Magic Quadrant, that Sophos is actually 12 years now consecutively been in the Leaders Quadrant for the past 12 years. And this is some other friendly vendors are actually now in the Leaders Quadrant, and some of those actually go down. Like for example, Symantec. And for us, we've been in the Leaders Quadrant for the past 12 years from Gartner. Another marketing slide is this is the most recent marketing slide that we could share towards organizations that might require it to be. So this one, you could all see it actually from your partner portal. So this is the marketing slide, or this is our credentials in relation to CRN as a tech innovator last 2020, SE Labs as well. So the third party testing for the capabilities of our endpoint protection. MRG Effitas, you could also find it here. AV Test, and of course, Gartner, you could also find it here. So please feel free to look at it on the partner portal, on your partner portal access, or if not, please let us know if you need further assistance. We would be able to share this document if ever you would need it for your clientele as well. So because of all of that, actually customers are pulling the plug on Symantec, primarily of all the challenges that we've reiterated earlier, and some other further challenges that they're currently experiencing with the Symantec SEP or endpoint protection. So a lot of it is one of the major causes of challenge that they are currently experiencing is that Symantec has a lot of management consoles when they are when they are accessing when in the perspective of an IT administrator. And because of that, I'll just show the next slide. It actually wastes time and produce inefficiency towards the IT administrators as well. In comparison to us, for us, because we have our Sophos Central, this is the main component that we address: efficiency and a unified management system. So here is our Sophos Central. As we all know, the Sophos Central has the capability to access all of the core components of Sophos, whether it be the endpoint, the Intercept X from endpoint or server, even our firewall, the wireless security, mobile security as well, encryption, email, and even the phish threat simulation. So our Sophos Central is a unified management central, and this is our biggest proposition when we are discussing about our advantages in relation to Sophos's perspective. Now let's go further to discussing about Sophos Central. Just a quick update on what it provides, and especially on in the perspective of an IT administrator, what would be the benefits that they would get when they are going to utilize our Sophos Central Management System. So first things first, this is the dashboard. So I think a lot of you are actually very much aware and very much familiar with our dashboard. As what you can see, you would just need to access it over a browser, like for example, Chrome. You're going to type in central.sophos.com, then put in your user and password. Then from there, you would be able to access all of our core components, like for example, endpoint protection, server protection, mobile security, encryption, email, and phish threat. And from there as well, you could then click that and also utilize the policies, the configurations from just one single dashboard. From the top, you could also see the users that is currently being onboarded towards the organization, for example, even the devices that are currently being tagged with a license, and the global settings as well. And to protect the devices as well, if you would want to add further devices towards a specific license, for example. So this is the Sophos Central actual dashboard. And I would want to reiterate again that this is a unified dashboard that you would be able to access our Sophos core components. Now, in understanding the IT needs, so we are looking at it, and pretty much everyone or pretty much everyone is actually looking at what are the benefits of the Sophos Central in relation to IT's perspective. So the first one is to reduce the complexity. So these are the questions that is currently or almost always being asked in the perspective of, let's say, an organization or our customers. How many management consoles do we juggle or do they juggle every day in relation to managing their security products, for example, their existing security products? So how many time do they spend jumping from one console to another console? And how much time do they spend making the products actually play well together and integrating with one another? So for us, because we have a unified one, they could all access our core components inside our Sophos Central over a dashboard, over our cloud dashboard, or over a browser. The next one is to look into the protection itself. So basically, the protection itself will dive further when we are discussing about the Intercept X. But this protection is the capabilities of our core components that are currently being tagged inside the Sophos Central management platform. And as I've mentioned earlier, our core components you would be able to access over the Sophos Central. That is why, in the perspective of the IT, they would be able to have the expectancy of the requirement of the cybersecurity posture that they're currently looking specifically on their organization as well. And lastly is the increased efficiency. So we have other factors as well that they would want to consider in relation to the perspective of the IT administrators. Like, for example, because they would utilize our Intercept X over the Sophos Central, so there would be no hardware to maintain, one of the major benefits of that, utilizing a cloud security platform. Also, it's very flexible and responsive in relation to the day-to-day tasks that they currently have. Automatic updates, because primarily it is being connected towards Sophos Central, and access from anywhere. So that one is a big factor as well, because if you are an IT administrator, you could look into the current status of your Sophos Central and your onboarded users and devices, even if you don't have, let's say, your laptop in mind. So let's say if you're on a cafe and you are the IT administrator, you could look at it as well over, let's say, your mobile or your iPad, for example. And because of that, control from anywhere and anytime, even the phone, is applicable when they are going to utilize the Sophos Central. Now, let's look into further advantages in when we are discussing about Sophos in relation to our friendly vendor, which is the Symantec one. So one of the primary advantage of Sophos's Intercept X Advanced is our crypto guard. So our crypto guard is our ability to protect against ransomware. So it is our anti-ransomware technology, which I'll further dive later when we go into the Intercept X agenda as well. But this is an FYI that CryptoGuard and WipeGuard as well, which focuses into the master boot record, is one of our major advantages when we are comparing it towards our friendly vendor, which is Symantec. And other prevention advantages is also utilizing our deep learning technology and engine as well. So let's discuss it further in a few more slides. And the exploit prevention. So our exploit prevention, because we're looking at the tactics, techniques, and procedures as well in relation to, let's say, the bad actors that are currently being an active adversary towards an organization. Because we're looking at their exploit tactics and techniques that they're using, we could be able to prevent it from the actual procedures or the actual techniques that they're currently using and not wait for it to be executed inside the organization itself. And also, lastly, as what you could see here on the traditional layer, is that we also have a web control as well. DLP, we also are included inside the Intercept X Advanced. So Sophos offers integrated DLP at no additional cost. And lastly is the application control as well. So we have the ability to, the administrators can take control, let's say, of installation, track usage, or block yung mga executions using a predefined application list. So we have these advantages as well when we compare it towards Symantec. And these ones are some of the proposition that we could have the ability to, let's say, communicate with if we are going to discuss some organizations that have currently Symantec existingly in their cybersecurity posture. Because of all of that, now we're going to go deeper into Intercept X. So Intercept X, for everyone here in the call, just a quick refresher. Intercept X is actually has three options. So the first one is the one that we all know, which is the SIXA, Central Intercept X Advanced, the protection license or the protection technology. So this is the Intercept X Advanced, as we all know of it. Now you could also look at it in relation to if, let's say, the organization is currently requiring detection and response capabilities. We have the ability to add in, let's say, the XDR component from our core solutions. And that XDR component would allow the organization to have detection and response capabilities, like if they would need further threat hunting or, let's say, forensics, looking into the historical data of their devices and looking if there are indicators of compromise, they would have that ability as well, if they would need that as well. So this is we could look at it as something of a next level solution, especially if that is one of their requirements. And lastly, we also have for our Intercept X, the MTR. The MTR is our Managed Threat and Response Service from Sophos itself. So we have the Sophos experts to be able to manage the detection and response requirements of an organization. Let's say, for example, they would want to augment further their cybersecurity analysts, primarily because of their headcount. It's not that much. So these are the types of organizations that want to be more proactive in looking at their IT infrastructure in relation to cybersecurity posture, but they don't have, or they have a limited headcount. They want to augment their IT teams or their SOC teams. They could look into our MTR as well. So it's a 24/7 service that's being provided by Sophos itself with its Sophos experts. So let's go into the Intercept X technology. So what is the actual engine that is running inside an Intercept X Advanced specifically? So as I've mentioned earlier, we have yung foundational layer natin. The foundational layer is what you call, let's say, the antivirus. What are the usual tactics and what are the usual technology that you could find inside an antivirus? This is the layer or the defense that we provide towards our organizations that requires a better endpoint protection. So as you could see, we'll go at it one by one. As you could see, there are other defenses or other components as well. We'll discuss it after we discuss the foundational one. But basically, the foundational is the knowing or the ability of an endpoint protection to look into the signatures of malwares and tracking it and not allowing it to pass through an organization. You could find it on our foundational defense. Also, you could also see there the application control I mentioned earlier, web control that I've mentioned as well, and peripheral control, which is, let's say, the organizations requires protection against USB peripheral devices. You could also look at it inside our Intercept X Advanced policy making and DLP as well. So the DLP policies, you could also have that feature when you are looking into our Intercept X. As I've mentioned, this is the baseline of our multiple layers of defense. Now, because we are much more looking as well into the unknown malwares that is currently being seen in the wild, and also the signatureless malwares and even the exploits, and especially the ransomwares. So we now have as well the deep learning technology, anti-ransomware technology, and anti-exploit technology. So for the deep learning technology, we employ an advanced form of machine learning to look at the unknown and the signatureless malwares and to be able to detect it before it ever runs on the endpoint. We're going to discuss that as well further, each of these additional ones on the succeeding slides. The next one is our anti-ransomware technology. So anti-ransomware technology, we call it our crypto guard. Our crypto guard has the ability to really see if there is an encryption that is happening or a malicious encryption that is happening over the organization's files and have the ability to roll back those files, thereby defeating the purpose of a ransomware. And lastly, the anti-exploit technology. So the anti-exploit technology, as mentioned earlier, is the technology that or the engine that looks into exploits, vulnerabilities, tactics, and procedures of the attackers and the bad actors that is currently being, or let's say, an active adversary inside the organization. We look at their procedures and techniques, and we stop it from those said techniques, not waiting for it to really execute inside the organization itself. So all of these multiple layers of defense is actually included inside our Intercept X Advanced. And you could expect the Intercept X Advanced to be one of the top line, and as what Gartner is already mentioning for the past 12 years, one of the top line endpoint solutions that would be able to provide further security towards, let's say, our friendly vendor, let's say Symantec, that has, or the organization that has a Symantec currently being existing inside their IT infrastructure. So all of these multiple layers of defense, you can find it all inside our Intercept X Advanced. So as I mentioned earlier, let's have some further discussions on the deep learning, anti-ransomware, and anti-exploit. So for the deep learning, it actually combines best-in-class anti-exploit technology as well, the one that I've shown earlier, even the crypto guard. We utilize AI and an advanced form of machine learning to look for signature-less malwares and yung mga sophisticated malwares. So if I'm going to list it, let's say, one by one, we prevent both known and never before seen malwares. We block malwares before it executes, does not rely on signatures, the deep learning technology. It protects even when the host is offline, and detects malware in approximately 20 milliseconds. So the deep learning technology was actually trained on hundreds, if not millions of samples to look into the heuristics, to look into the file or the malware behavior, so that we won't be surprised when it goes inside an organization, especially those sophisticated and unknown malwares as well, because they still have patterns that they would want to do inside the organization itself, the patterns that they would want to step by step, let's say, checklist or check when they are penetrating inside an organization. Like, for example, if they're going to touch, let's say, the PowerShell of the Windows, look into the registry files, etc., etc. So the deep learning, we leverage AI to better protect ourselves in relation to sophisticated and unknown malwares. Now for the anti-ransomware, so as I mentioned earlier, CryptoGuard, we call it the CryptoGuard. It uses behavioral analysis as well to stop previously unseen ransomware and boot record attacks. So the organization would not need to worry about ransomware further. So for example, the CryptoGuard, it looks into the disk and does a just-in-time partitioning, primarily, or file caching rather, primarily to protect against sophisticated ransomware attacks. And if ever it executes, it would be able to deploy, or at least it would be able to provide a rollback, especially to defeat the purpose of a ransomware towards the organization. So CryptoGuard focuses on files of an organization, and WipeGuard focuses on the master boot record, or yung ating mga Windows or OS files as well. And lastly, for the feature of an anti-exploit, the Intercept X simply recognizes the exploit techniques and prevents them from being leveraged by a bad actor. So unlike yung mga traditional anti-malware technology, Sophos Intercept X stops the threats before they enter the system or the IT infrastructure of an organization. So it blocks the exploits, or let's say the active adversary techniques as well, fileless and script-based attacks, and also protect at all the chain points or all the attack points that would be able to be seen in the organization, especially if they are currently being targeted by a bad actor. So all of these steps, let's say from the preparation, triggering, gain control, up until the payload drop, these are the ones that are being looked into by our anti-exploit technology, which is we call the anti-exploit inside the Intercept X Advanced engine. Now, what are the common exploit examples? So these are some of the types of exploits that are currently being seen in the wild, especially when they are leveraging, let's say, exploits of applications and the OS as well. So the four common types is credential theft. So extracting, of course, the admin passwords and escalating the privileges. These are the types of exploits that could be protected by Intercept X. or will be protected by Intercept X rather towards the organization. Another one is leveraging macros. So macros from, let's say, Excel files. These are the common ones that are being leveraged, especially when they utilize PowerShell from Windows to really have a penetration point towards the organization. So the anti-exploit technology from Intercept X looks at these types of exploits as well. Code caving is another one, hiding yung mga malicious code inside legitimate programs. So these ones are, let's say, from the SHA-256. Tapos you'll see if someone here or from our audience knows, let's say, base64. So if we're going to look into the script and going inside deeper into the script of, let's say, a malicious file or malicious malware, you'll find there a malicious code hidden inside a legitimate program. These are the types of exploits that the anti-exploit technology from Intercept X are looking into. And lastly is yung APC injection. So yung piggybacking on legitimate processes naman of our OSS to execute malicious code. These are the types of exploits that Intercept X Advanced will protect towards the organization that's going to utilize Sophos Intercept X Advanced. Now, we're going to discuss further what would be the expectations in relation to deployment. So almost always, these ones are the questions to, like, for example, if we've encountered organization that says, let's say, it might be very hard naman if ever to deploy or if ever we migrate into Sophos, what are the expectations there? Actually, we call it, from us, we call it the 1, 2, 3 step. Actually, it's very easy. So these are the default. Of course, we have, depending on the IT infrastructure, let's say they're going to use Active Directory or et cetera, et cetera. There are other circumstances as well. But by default, these are the deployment methods that you could expect from Sophos Intercept X. First is the organization would just need to log in to Sophos Central Admin. So they would just need to register on a Sophos Central platform. Once they register, and especially if they procured the Intercept X license, they would just need to add the users either through the click email setup link. So from the Sophos Central, they have a click email setup link. They'll just put in the email of their users' organizations. And from there, it will be deployed. The Sophos Central will deploy an email that would have an installer of Sophos and our Sophos CRT. So the Sophos CRT is our competitor removal tool. This one will trigger automatically if it detects a friendly competitor that is currently being seen on that said device. So basically, it's very easy, primarily because they would just need to utilize the installer plus the Sophos CRT, and this is automated already. You would not be able to proceed if Sophos CRT does not run, which is actually automated. It's actually inside the Sophos installer batch already. So basically, it's a step 1, 2, 3. Once they install it, they will now see the Sophos inside their device, and they would not be able to see the previous friendly competitor or friendly vendor that they currently have or that they have previously. Another option is deployment via download installer. So the first step is still the same. They just need to log in. The IT administrator of an organization needs to log in to Sophos Central. Especially, they would, of course, they would need to have their registration. They would just need to register and log in. Then the next step is they could now provide or look into, this is the screenshot actually. They would look into, let's say, a download installer link and share that installer towards their user base or their organization. That is the actual step 3. They would just need to deploy the installer link towards, let's say, their users and for their devices. And basically, it's still the same. Sophos installer plus Sophos CRT or competitive removal tool will run. And once the agent is there, then they would find, they would be able to find the Sophos agent inside their device. So that's basically the expectations for deployment. And I just want to share that because primarily we might encounter some questions, especially related to how easy the deployment is, especially if they have, let's say, an existing friendly vendor, specifically, for example, Symantec. And we could just share this 3 steps in by default and in general, especially when they're just looking at conversations in relation to deployment. Now, if they would need to have further deployment conversations, please let us know. We would be very much happy to help you with, especially our tech team. We would be very much happy to look into, let's say, a current opportunity that you might have. and to have a proposition in relation to, let's say, the deployment that they would expect, or the organization, the end user would expect. And lastly, we look into the promo that we currently have. So this is just an FYI, actually. Some of you, or I guess the majority of you here, already knows about our promos. But for those that are not, doesn't or are not aware of the promo, this is just an FYI. So currently, we provide an SMB promo. So the SMB promo is a very competitive promo, specifically for the 6-app or our Intercept X Advanced, up to 99 licenses for new users. So you could also utilize that towards, let's say, an existing Symantec user, and 6 for server. So if they would need the Intercept X per server, we could be able to provide this promo up to 24 licenses for the new users that would want to protect their server assets as well. So basically, as I mentioned, this one is a very quick webinar. This is primarily providing further updates and primarily providing an FYIs, especially on discussion with our friendly vendor, which is the Symantec one. And I'm going to open up now the Q&A. So please feel free to write in the chat box if you have further inquiries, and we'll do our best to answer it as fast as we can. Or if not, we'll reach out to you to be able to provide you answers on the inquiry. So I do hope the content was very streamlined, and especially as we requested you to be able to attend the webinar on a Friday, and we thank you for that as well. And I do hope that it was very informative, or at least would start conversations, especially on your customers. So I would just want to open up now the Q&A portion. Please feel free to write in if you have inquiries as well related to what we've discussed, and please feel free to write it on the chat box. We'll start, or at least we'll provide a few more minutes, and after that, we'll now proceed on our post activity proper. So I'll just provide a few more minutes for everyone if ever you have inquiries. Thank you, everyone. We end the agenda for today. And I do hope that I was able to provide you some further information, especially on when we're looking at Symantec. Please hold on, because we're still going to have, not today, sorry. Please hold on the few more succeeding days, or at least by November. We're still going to have further webinars on different topics as well, and would focus on a lot of different aspects, actually. So please kindly look us up over the email, and our accounts manager would also reach out to you for the succeeding webinars that would be incoming. And we thank you for your time, especially because this is Friday. I do know that everyone has a very specific time on Friday. Thank you so much for your time. I do hope we were able to provide you further information on Sophos Intercept X. So thank you, everyone. I'm Anthony, and please stay safe. And I look forward on having further conversations with you. Please have a good weekend. And thank you, everyone. Please stay safe. Thank you again. Have a good day. Thank you, everyone.